The journey begins. I never believed in ghosts, at least, not until I decided to chase them. It started as a documentary project, Haunted Europe. A YouTube series meant to blend history with a touch of cheap thrill. The idea was simple. Visit the continent's most infamous haunted sites, record the night, and upload whatever strange things happened. I was a skeptic, the kind who laughed at orbs in photos and whispered legends. My small crew, Hannah, my producer and girlfriend, Thomas, the camera operator, and Claire, a sound engineer, joined me on this 2-month trip. We had all the gear: infrared cameras, recorders, motion sensors. Nothing could prepare us for what was waiting. Our first stop, Poveglia Island, Italy. A private boat dropped us off before dusk. The island was silent. No birds, no waves. Just the sound of wind threading through broken windows of the old asylum. The locals had warned us not to stay after dark, but that was the whole point. The building's bones were crumbling. Rusted beds, torn straps, old surgical tables left behind. The air smelled of mold and salt, but beneath it was something faint, like burned hair. As night fell, Thomas set up cameras in the main hallway. Anna and I went upstairs to record voiceovers. The walls were scratched with Italian words I couldn't translate, but one phrase repeated again and again. La anima non dormono. The souls do not sleep. Hours passed. The island grew colder. When the wind died, we heard something faint, a whisper, distant at first, then closer. Claire checked the mic levels, thinking it was interference. But the voice came through clearer. Lasciami andare. Let me go. It was followed by a laugh. Sharp, wet. Human. We froze. Anna's camera caught something on the far end of the hall. A silhouette. Not quite solid. But there, when we moved toward it, the air turned electric, lights flickered. Thomas yelled that one of the cameras had shut off. The figure dissolved before we reached it. But on playback, it wasn't gone. It smiled. We left Poveglia before dawn. The boatman didn't ask questions. He looked at us and said quietly, "You've taken something with you." We laughed it off. But Anna didn't sleep that night. She said she heard someone whispering in Italian beside her ear. I told her it was just the sea, but the sea had stopped making noise hours ago. The bloody Chapel Island was supposed to be safer, quieter, more human after the island. The team needed something that felt less cursed, more historical. But Leap Castle was anything but safe. The castle stood on a low hill under grey skies, its stones blackened by centuries of rain. From a distance, it looked asleep, forgotten, but up close, you could feel it breathing. Locals called it the Bloody Chapel, whispering of murder, betrayal, and the thing that lingered inside. We arrived just before dusk, cameras ready. The caretaker, a thin old man with eyes like ash, met us at the gate. "You'll hear things," he said, "but don't go looking for them." Then he left. Just like that. No handshake, no goodbye. Inside, the castle was colder than outside. The walls seemed to hum, like something ancient lived in the stone itself. We set up lights and equipment in the chapel, the site of the O'Carroll family murder centuries ago. One brother had slaughtered the other with a sword while he was saying mass. Blood was said to have soaked into the floor, and no one ever cleaned it. As we filmed, Anna read the story aloud, her voice echoing against the ceiling. When they found the body, his hand was still gripping the chalice. Thomas zoomed in on the altar. The stone was cracked, stained darker in the middle. Not dust, not dirt. Claire whispered, "Is that blood?" I knelt down, running my flashlight across it. The texture was wrong, rough and sticky, like something recently spilled. "Old paint," I said quickly, but my throat was dry. That night, we decided to sleep in the great hall below the chapel. Round midnight, the first sound came. Footsteps above us, slow, dragging, back and forth. Thomas thought it was the caretaker, but when he checked the entrance, the doors were locked from inside. Then came the chanting, low, rhythmic Latin echoing through the stone corridors. We ran upstairs. Cameras rolling. The chapel door was open, though we had closed it ourselves. Inside, candles flickered even though none of us had lit them. On the altar stood the figure of a man, head bowed. His hands were clasped, and his mouth was moving, Anna whispered. "Father O'Carroll." The man's head turned sharply. His eyes were hollow pits. He smiled, revealing teeth blackened by centuries of decay. And when he opened his mouth to speak, the sound that came out was not human. A deep, rattling breath that felt like it came from inside our own chests. Thomas screamed. The candles went out. For a second, there was total blackness, and then the floor gave way. We crashed into a hidden chamber below. Dust and bone fragments rained down. The air was suffocating, metallic. When I looked up, the hole above had sealed, the chapel gone. My flashlight revealed what lay round us, skulls. Dozens of them. And something worse, a pit. Deep, narrow, lined with spikes. Claire muttered, trembling. They called it the oubliette. A place to forget. That is when we realized where we were. The dungeon where prisoners had been thrown to starve, their bodies left to rot. In the shadows, something crawled. Not a rat, not a sound of movement, but the scrape of fingernails on stone. Anna whispered my name, but it didn't come from her mouth. It came from behind me. We fled, clawing at the walls, searching for any exit. Finally, Thomas found a small stairway. As we climbed, something cold brushed my ankle, a hand, pale and wet. We burst out into the hallway gasping. The castle was silent again. When I turned back, the door to the chapel was gone, just a solid wall of stone. That night, Anna dreamt of the priest. She said he whispered that the souls do not sleep. The same words we saw on Poveglia, the same. Voice that had followed us across the sea. The catacombs below Pers, the city of light. But beneath its glittering streets lies an ocean of bones. We arrived 3 days after Ireland, carrying more fear than luggage. Anna hadn't spoken much since Leap Castle. She'd begun writing strange words in her notebook. Over and over, phrases in Latin neither of us understood. Thomas joked that she was possessed by research, but his laughter felt hollow. The catacombs were the next stop on our list. 6 million bodies ranged in endless tunnels beneath the city. The French authorities only allow access to a small portion, but through a local urban explorer. Named Luke, we found a way into the forbidden sections. He grinned when he met us. There are tunnels where even the dead get lost, he said. But don't worry. I know the way. The air was wet, stale, and heavy with dust. Each wall was stacked with skulls, countless, silent witnesses. We walked for hours. Our footsteps echoing. Claire kept recording ambient sound, dripping water. Distant vibrations that sounded almost like breathing. Then the signal began to fade. Our radios crackled, screens glitched, and one by one, our cameras shut off. Luke's voice echoed ahead of us. Stay close. But the tunnel forked, left and right. When we reached it, Luke was gone. Only his flashlight remained on the floor, flickering weakly. We shouted his name. No reply. Just the sound of whispers, low and fast, weaving through the walls. Anna turned in circles, whispering, "It's them. They're following us." I tried to calm her, but even I could hear it now. The whispering wasn't coming from one place. It was everywhere, as if the walls themselves were breathing words into our ears. Then Thomas froze. His camera light caught something, a figure standing at the far end of the tunnel. At first, it looked human. Then it tilted its head in a jerky, unnatural motion. Slowly, it began to walk toward us. We ran. The tunnels twisted endlessly. The bones blurred past us. Our lights flickered. The air grew colder, and every direction looked the same. We reached a large chamber, walls lined entirely with skulls. In the center stood an old table, stone, ancient. Upon it, a single object, a mask carved from bone. Anna picked it up, trembling. This is old, maybe medieval, a ritual object. Thomas tried to film it, but the camera showed only static. On the audio track, later, we'd hear something impossible, a voice whispering, "Wear it," the moment Anna put the mask down. We heard movement behind us, a scraping of bone against stone. I turned, expecting another explorer, but instead saw shapes emerging from the walls, not fully solid, not human. Skulls turning, jaws shifting, empty sockets glowing faintly with pale light. Claire screamed and ran, but the tunnel ahead closed. The walls seemed to breathe inward. Narrowing, we had no choice but to backtrack. The whispers grew louder. They were saying something in French, overlapping voices like a chorus. "Vous êtes nous maintenant. You belong to us now." When we finally found the way out, it wasn't Luke who led us. It was someone else. A woman in a white dress, barefoot, her hair dripping wet as though she'd come from underwater. She walked silently, and we followed, too afraid to question. She led us to a narrow tunnel that sloped upward. Light spilled through a grate ahead. Daylight. We climbed, breathless, until we emerged into the basement of an old church. But when I turned to thank her, she was gone. Only our puddle remained on the floor, though there hadn't been any water down there. Thomas checked the footage. His hands were shaking. On camera, the woman had no face, just an empty blur, like something erased from existence. We backed up that night. Claire refused to continue the project. Thomas wanted to quit, too, but Anna was different now. Obsessed, driven. "She's calling us to finish it," she said quietly. "Who?" I asked. "The one from the island. The one who followed us." She smiled faintly. We woke her up. The gateway to hell. We crossed into the Czech Republic under a storm-heavy sky. By now, the documentary wasn't about history or folklore. It was survival disguised as curiosity. Claire had gone home after Paris. Her last message just said, "She's in the footage." We never replied. Anna was distant, pale. She barely slept, spoke less, and when she did, it was in fragments, whispers in Latin, murmurs in Italian, and once, a phrase that chilled me. She said, "You'll open the door." Houska Castle sat in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by forests that felt older than time. It had no strategic purpose, no trade routes, no rivers nearby. It was said to have been built over a hole that led straight to hell. The legend claimed that before the castle, people chained prisoners and lowered them into the pit to see what was down there. None came back alive. The caretaker was waiting when we arrived, a stooped man named Peter with grey eyes that never blinked for long. "You can stay," he said softly, but not near the chapel. We told him that was exactly where we needed to go. He only nodded. Then leave before dawn. If you hear voices, do not answer. We set up camp in the main hall. The castle was silent except for the wind moaning through cracks. In the stone, it felt alive in a way that made my skin crawl. The air itself seemed to pulse, like it was breathing us in, and I was drawn to the chapel immediately. She moved like she knew the way. Her flashlight trembling as it caught the carvings on the walls, ancient. Violent depictions of winged beasts and chained figures. The floor was uneven, and in the center, there was a heavy metal grate. That's it, Thomas whispered, the hole. When I leaned over it, cold air rose from below, but it wasn't just cold. It smelled wrong, like earth and rot and something metallic. Like old blood. We dropped a glow stick. It fell for several seconds, then flickered out before hitting bottom. There's no end, Thomas said quietly. Anna was staring into the pit. It's not empty, she murmured. Her voice wasn't her own, deeper, distant. She's down there. Then something answered. A whisper from below, soft, childlike, repeating her name. Anna, Anna, she gasped and stepped closer to the edge. I grabbed her wrist. Stop. You're hearing. But she turned to me, eyes wide and black as ink. She said, we have to finish it. Thomas backed away, camera shaking. We're leaving. Now. But the castle groaned. A deep vibration rolled through the walls. Dust fell from the ceiling. Lights flickered. The grate shifted, metal screeching. And then, something pushed up from the darkness, not a hand, not a human shape, but a ripple of shadow, thick as smoke, stretching toward us. The smell was unbearable, sulfur and decay, and screamed. Fell back. I dragged her out of the chapel as Thomas slammed the door shut. But behind it, the whispering grew louder. Twisting into words that weren't in any language we knew, we barricaded ourselves in the hall. Thomas replayed the footage, his hands trembling. On screen, just before the shadow rose, a face appeared in the pit, pale, drowned, smiling. The same face we saw in Paris. The same one from Poveglia. Anna pointed at the screen. She's following us through the places. The cursed ones. She wants the last one opened. The last what? I asked. The last door. She began laughing then. Soft, broken laughter that turned into sobbing. Outside, thunder cracked. The wind howled against the windows. But beneath it, there was something else, rhythmic pounding, like fists on stone, coming from under the floor. Hedda burst into the room. You fools, you've awakened it. He ran to the chapel, trying to seal the grate with salt and chains, muttering prayers in Czech. But the floor split with a deafening roar, and a burst of black wind shot through the hall. Hedda was thrown across the room, his body limp and still. Then everything went silent. Anna stood at the edge of the crack, eyes closed, whispering, "She's up now." When I called her name, she didn't move. The darkness behind her seemed to reach out, wrapping round her body like smoke. She smiled, that same unnatural smile we'd seen on the figure in our footage. Thomas grabbed her arm, but she was ice cold. He screamed, and the shadow swallowed him whole. Gone. No sound. Just gone. I ran. I don't remember how I got outside, only that I didn't stop until the forest ended. The castle behind me looked smaller, quieter, like nothing had happened. But the air was wrong. In the distance, a faint voice called my name, soft, almost kind. It was Anna's voice. "Come back, please. We're not done yet."
The last door I left the Czech Republic before sunrise, driving through the fog-drenched woods until I reached the next country line. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I could still feel the cold from Houska Castle in my bones, that breath from the pit, the whisper that knew my name. But the worst part wasn't what happened there. It was that I could still hear Anna's voice, even when I was hundreds of miles away. She called softly whenever I tried to sleep. Sometimes in English, sometimes in languages I didn't know. Always gentle, always closer than it should have been. I told myself it was guilt, trauma, exhaustion. But on the third night, I found sand on the floor of my motel room, wet, grey sand, like from a beach. The same kind we'd seen on Poveglia Island. And then my phone began to ring. No caller ID, just static. But through the noise, a whisper. Finish what you started. I tried to end it. I deleted the footage. I smashed the hard drives, but every time I opened my laptop, new files appeared, folders named La Anime, Nundor Mono, The Souls Do Not Sleep. Each one contained clips we hadn't filmed, Anna walking through ruins I'd never seen, Tomas's voice calling my name, and one file labeled Final Door. I clicked it. The screen filled with static, then an image, a door carved from black wood, standing alone in an empty field under storm clouds. Behind it, something was moving. I should have stopped watching. But I couldn't. A message appeared on the screen. To close it, you must see it. Then GPS coordinates flashed briefly before the video cut to black. I drove all night. The location led me to northern Poland, to the ruins of an old monastery swallowed by the forest. The locals avoided it, calling it the mouth of night. The road ended in mud and silence. My headlights flickered as I approached. The structure looked half-eaten by time, arches collapsing, statues eroded, the scent of wet stone everywhere. Inside, the air was still and thick. There was no sound except the drip of water from the ceiling. And then, there it was, the door, exactly like the video. Black wood carved faces twisted in agony. Every instinct screamed at me to leave. But Anna's voice whispered again, soft and broken, "Please help me." I stepped closer. The carvings pulsed like veins under skin. My flashlight flickered, showing flashes of movement, faces in the walls, eyes watching. When I touched the handle, it was warm, beating faintly, like a pulse. And then the air turned heavy. The walls trembled. The voice behind the door, her voice grew louder. "Open it. End it." I turned the handle. The world went silent. Behind the door was nothing, no floor, no light. Just a void that felt endless. And then shapes began to move within it, familiar ones. Thomas, Claire, and Anna. She stepped forward barefoot, drenched as if she'd risen from the sea. Her eyes were hollow, her smile the same as before. "Too wide, too wrong. You brought me home," she said. I shook my head. "What are you?" She tilted her head, almost tender. "You saw us. You gave us back our voices. You let the door open. Now we're free. The darkness behind her surged. Hands, hundreds of them, reaching, clawing. Each one covered in rot, each one grasping for the light. I turned to run, but the ground crumbled beneath me. I fell into blackness, falling for what felt like hours, surrounded by whispers. Every voice was one we'd recorded on our journey, layered together into one endless scream. When I woke, it was daylight. I was lying in the middle of a wheat field, miles from the monastery. My camera was beside me, still recording. The battery read 66%. On the footage, there's no fall, no darkness, only me standing before the door. Then the lens fills with light, and a voice, Anna's voice, saying, "Now you'll never stop seeing." That was 3 months ago. Since then, I've been uploading pieces of the footage without remembering doing it. Videos appear on my channel, shaky, grainy, showing places I've never visited, a chapel, a tunnel, a door in the dark. Each ends with a faint whisper. Every new viewer hears their own name in it. I get messages every day. Your video whispered to me, "Something's wrong with the audio. I saw her behind me in the reflection." I stopped trying to delete them. The files always come back. The channel now has millions of views. The world thinks it's art, but it isn't. It's spreading. The last clip uploaded yesterday automatically while I slept. It was filmed inside my apartment. The door was behind me, and this time it was open.